The summer of 1855 descended upon Oakhaven, Georgia, with a suffocating embrace, the air thick with the scent of pine and the promise of impending storms. In this quiet, sun-baked hamlet, life moved at the languid pace of the Chattahoochee River, its rhythms dictated by the rising sun and the tolling of the lone church bell. Here, families were deeply interwoven, their histories tangled like the roots of ancient oaks. It was a place where secrets, though few, were tenacious, clinging to the dusty roads and the whispered conversations on front porches. Yet, one particular enigma, cold as a forgotten hearth, continued to echo through the generations, defying all attempts at rational explanation. This was the chilling account of the Abernathy family, a dozen souls in total, who seemingly evaporated from their sturdy farmhouse after a seemingly ordinary Sunday dinner. The dwelling, constructed of rough-hewn timber, stood sentinel on a gentle rise, its windows gazing out over fields of ripening corn. Josiah Abernathy, a man of quiet fortitude and unyielding resolve, had built the house with his own calloused hands, intending it to be an unbreachable sanctuary for his ever-expanding lineage. His wife, Elara, a woman of gentle strength and boundless warmth, had filled its rooms with the melodic sounds of laughter and the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread. Their 10 children, a lively brood ranging from the toddling twins to their 17-year-old eldest son, were the very heartbeat of their home, a testament to their enduring love and shared dreams. The Abernathys were an indispensable pillar of the Oakhaven community, their presence a comforting constant at the modest Presbyterian church every Sunday, their voices blending harmoniously in the sacred hymns. Josiah was a widely respected farmer, his reputation built on honest dealings and an indefatigable work ethic that saw him labor from dawn till dusk. Elara was equally cherished for her profound charitable spirit, always ready with a comforting word, a warm embrace, or a steaming pot of stew for any neighbor in need, embodying the true spirit of communal kindness. Their children, a vibrant and industrious lot, were a credit to their upbringing, their good manners and cheerful dispositions reflecting the values instilled by their devoted parents. Their lives, though seemingly simple and devoid of grand ambitions, were rich in the profound tapestry of family bonds and deeply rooted community ties, a mosaic woven with the everyday joys of shared laughter and the quiet satisfaction of collective responsibilities. The Sunday in question, August 19th, had unfolded with an unremarkable beginning. Much like any other Sabbath in Oakhaven, the sun, a relentless, fiery orb, beat down upon the dusty roads as the Abernathys made their customary pilgrimage to church, their Sunday best a small defiance against the oppressive heat. Services proceeded with their usual solemnity, followed by amiable chatter and familiar greetings on the sun-drenched church grounds. Sarah Miller, a close confidant of Elara, vividly recalled a brief, mundane conversation about the unusually bountiful harvest of peaches that year, a detail that would later assume an almost tragic significance. Little did anyone in Oakhaven realize that these seemingly insignificant interactions would become the last verifiable instances of the Abernathy family in the public eye, their final tangible connection to the world they inhabited. As the afternoon wore on, a low, guttural rumble of distant thunder had begun to stir in the oppressive stillness, promising a much-needed respite from the relentless heat. The Abernathys, their children's tired chatter slowly fading into contented silence, returned to their farm, their thoughts undoubtedly turning to the evening's repast. A hearty Sunday dinner, a tradition observed with almost religious devotion, awaited them, a feast that symbolized their enduring unity and served as the cornerstone of their week. This final, shared meal, a tableau of domestic serenity, would, with an ironic twist of fate, become the last known act in their earthly existence, leaving behind an unsettling silence that would echo through the years, a profound void that no explanation could ever adequately fill. The subsequent Monday dawned with a renewed, almost suffocating intensity of heat, the air thick and utterly unmoving, pressing down on the small town. Old Man Hemlock, a solitary figure who presided over the local post office and possessed an almost encyclopedic knowledge of everyone's comings and goings, was the first to discern the subtle tremor in the town's familiar rhythm. Josiah Abernathy was habitually the very first to arrive at the post office on Monday mornings, rain or shine, to retrieve the weekly newspaper and any cherished letters from distant kin. His unprecedented absence was, in itself, a small but perceptible disruption in the otherwise predictable cadence of Oakhaven's week. Hemlock, a creature of immutable habits, initially dismissed it, attributing it perhaps to Josiah having an uncharacteristically early start with his fields, an attempt to beat the oppressive heat. However, as the morning inexorably stretched into the lethargic afternoon, a more profound and unsettling unease began to insinuate itself into the fabric of the small town. Elara Abernathy, renowned throughout Oakhaven for her unwavering punctuality and meticulous organization, failed conspicuously to arrive for the weekly Ladies' Aid Society meeting at the church. This was an occurrence of such unprecedented magnitude that it immediately raised alarm bells, as Elara was undeniably the society's most devoted and active member, her dependable presence a universally acknowledged given. Whispers, quiet and tentative at first, began to circulate through the community, gradually gaining a low, ominous hum of growing concern. Neighbors, their faces etched with a dawning apprehension, exchanged worried glances over their fences, the usual light-hearted gossip abruptly replaced by a palpable sense of foreboding that seemed to hang heavy in the air. By late afternoon, Reverend Silas Croft, a man of profound faith, unwavering conviction, and keen practical wisdom, felt an undeniable compulsion to act. He had observed with increasing disquiet the mounting anxiety among his parishioners, and his own heart held a relentless, gnawing apprehension that defied easy dismissal. Gathering a small but resolute group of townsfolk, among them Thomas Bellamy, the burly and reliable blacksmith, and young Samuel Peterson, a diligent farmhand who frequently offered his assistance to the Abernathys during their demanding harvest seasons, Reverend Croft set out with a grim determination for the Abernathy farm. The oppressive humidity seemed to press down on them with each measured step, the otherwise tranquil silence of the countryside amplified by their unspoken fears, each man acutely aware of the potentially grim discovery that awaited them. The familiar, winding path to the farmhouse, worn smooth by countless journeys over the years, seemed to stretch endlessly before them. As they drew nearer, an overwhelming, profound quietude enveloped them, a stillness that was not the peaceful, idyllic quiet of a serene rural afternoon, but rather an unnatural, almost unsettling hush. No smoke curled lazily from the chimney, no sounds of children's playful shouts or laughter drifted on the oppressive breeze, and eerily, no dogs barked their customary warning. The farm animals, usually bustling with life and activity, stood listlessly in their pens, their uncharacteristic quietude a stark and unsettling testament to the profound absence of their caretakers. The very air around the farmhouse seemed to hold its breath, pregnant with an unspoken dread. Reverend Croft, his usually steady hand trembling almost imperceptibly, pushed open the creaking wooden gate, its hinges groaning like a long, drawn-out sigh of despair. The front door of the farmhouse, typically left ajar on warm summer days to invite the slightest breeze, was found closed but inexplicably unlatched. A nervous, apprehensive glance passed between the men, their eyes wide with a shared premonition, before Reverend Croft, gathering his resolve, pushed the door slowly inward. What they collectively discovered within the Abernathy home would forever etch itself into the collective memory of Oakhaven, a chilling tableau of undisturbed domesticity that defied all logical explanation and relentlessly fueled the persistent whispers of a profound mystery that had no earthly, rational solution, leaving only a lingering sense of profound unease and dread. The scene that unfolded inside the Abernathy farmhouse was one of profoundly unsettling normalcy, a domestic tableau meticulously frozen in the very act of living. The long, sturdy pine table in the dining room remained precisely as it had been left, set for a family meal of 12 dough, each place laid with simple, utilitarian earthenware plates and meticulously polished tin cutlery, half-eaten portions of roasted chicken, now cold and congealed, and untouched bowls of stew sat in silent, unappetizing testimony to an abruptly abandoned repast. A half-filled glass of milk stood precisely beside a child's small plate, a faint, almost imperceptible ring marking the spot where tiny, eager fingers had last held it. It was as if the entire family had simply risen from their supper in unison and, without a single word or a hurried gesture, walked away into thin air, never to return to the life they had so carefully cultivated. In the meticulously maintained kitchen, a small fire still smoldered faintly in the hearth, its dying embers casting a weak, flickering glow on the unwashed pots and pans, a silent testament to a meal recently prepared. A freshly baked loaf of bread lay cooling on a wooden board, its crust still yielding to the gentle pressure of a touch, as if awaiting the morning's first slice. The air, heavy with the lingering scent of cooked food, had now taken on a stale, cloying quality, a subtle hint of decay in the otherwise preserved environment. There were no discernible signs of struggle, no overturned chairs to suggest a hasty departure, no broken dishes scattered across the floor to indicate a moment of panic. Everything, with an almost chilling precision, remained meticulously in its place. A pristine picture of quiet domesticity abruptly and inexplicably interrupted. It was this very orderliness, this unnerving lack of disarray, that lent an overwhelming air of profound strangeness and eerie disorientation to the entire scene, confounding any attempt at rational explanation. Upstairs, the beds in the various bedrooms were found to be neatly made, their quilts meticulously folded at the foot, their pillows plumped and inviting, as if awaiting their occupants' return. A small wooden toy soldier, perhaps a beloved companion, lay abandoned on a braided rug in one of the smaller children's rooms, as if dropped in the middle of an afternoon's innocent play. In Josiah and Alara's spacious bedroom, a worn, leather-bound family Bible lay open on a simple bedside table, a faint indentation on the page suggesting it had been recently read, perhaps during an evening devotion. A woman's shawl, soft and familiar, was carefully draped over the back of a sturdy wooden chair, and a pair of Josiah's sturdy work boots stood dutifully by the door, seemingly ready for the arduous demands of the next morning. The utterly undisturbed nature of the entire house, from the smallest trinket to the largest piece of furniture, only served to deepen the already impenetrable enigma of their sudden vanishing. The barn and its accompanying outbuildings, meticulous in their organization, offered no further illuminating clues to the family's whereabouts. The livestock, though clearly uncared for and displaying signs of distress, were all present, accounted for, and confined within their respective enclosures. The horses stood listlessly in their stalls, their heads bowed, the chickens roosted quietly in their coops, and the cows lowed softly and mournfully in the pasture, their usual bustling activity replaced by an unnerving stillness. Farm implements, from plows to rakes, were neatly stored, each tool hanging precisely on its designated peg, exactly as Josiah, with his meticulous nature, would have left them. It was as if the Abernathys had simply, inexplicably vanished into thin air, leaving their entire carefully ordered lives meticulously arranged behind them. The complete absence of any trace, any discernible sign of forced entry, of a hurried departure, or even of a fleeting struggle, was by far the most profoundly perplexing and deeply unsettling aspect of the entire, bewildering event, mocking every attempt at logical deduction. Reverend Croft, his normally composed face pale with a dawning horror, slowly walked through the silent, echoing rooms, his gaze sweeping over each meticulously preserved detail, his mind struggling to reconcile what he saw with any known reality. Thomas Bellamy, the burly blacksmith, stood transfixed in the doorway of the dining room, his usually robust and unwavering frame slumped in utter disbelief, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and growing dread. Young Samuel Peterson, who had often shared hearty meals at this very table, simply stared at the cold, abandoned plates, a look of profound bewilderment and shock etched deeply on his youthful face. The overwhelming, suffocating silence of the house, broken only by the persistent, irritating buzzing of a solitary fly, spoke volumes of an absence too profound, too absolute, to comprehend fully. The Abernathys were undeniably gone, leaving behind only the chilling, almost sacred remnants of an unfinished supper, a tableau of domesticity suspended in a timeless, horrifying void. News of the Abernathy family's inexplicable disappearance spread through the small, tightly knit community of Oakhaven like a raging wildfire, igniting a fervent, volatile mix of profound fear, rampant speculation, and bewildered, almost incapacitating grief. Neighbors gathered on their shaded porches, their hushed conversations punctuated by solemn, disbelieving shakes of the head, their voices barely above a whisper. The local constable, a portly but well-meaning man named Jedediah Thorne, immediately initiated a desperate search, assembling a posse of grim-faced volunteers to meticulously scour the surrounding woods and fields, their determination fueled by a desperate hope. Day after relentless day, the unforgiving sun beat down upon the weary search parties as they painstakingly combed through every dense thicket, every winding creek bed, and every hidden, shadowed hollow. But their arduous efforts yielded nothing. Not a single solitary trace of the 12 Abernathys was found, no scrap of clothing, no discarded item, no sign of their passing. The initial, tentative theory of a runaway family, a desperate escape from some unforeseen hardship, quickly dissolved under the weight of overwhelming evidence. Josiah and Alara Abernathy were deeply, inextricably rooted in Oakhaven, their entire lives and identities intrinsically linked to their prosperous farm and the supportive community that surrounded them. They had no outstanding debts, no known enemies who would wish them harm, and absolutely no conceivable reason to simply abandon their meticulously built home and every single thing they held dear. The very notion that all 10 children, ranging from helpless infants to independent teenagers, could be coerced or willingly participate in such a drastic, silent, and utterly seamless exodus was simply unthinkable, defying all logic and human nature. The profound absence of a single item missing from the house, save for the family themselves, further and definitively contradicted the already weak idea of a planned and clandestine departure. As the weeks inexorably turned into a silent, agonizing procession of months, the desperate search efforts gradually dwindled, replaced by an oppressive, suffocating silence that settled irrevocably over the Abernathy farm. The once vibrant crops withered unharvested in the fields, their promise unfulfilled, and the farm animals, deprived of their caretakers, eventually dispersed into the wild or were reluctantly taken in by sympathetic, bewildered neighbors. The farmhouse itself, once a beacon of warmth and life, slowly but surely became a grim monument to absence, its vacant windows like unseeing eyes staring out over the increasingly desolate and forlorn land. Children were sternly warned away from the now haunting property, the whispered tales of ghosts and dark omens taking firm root in the fertile soil of local folklore, growing more sinister with each passing season. The mystery, utterly unsolved and stubbornly inexplicable, began to subtly warp the very fabric of Oakhaven's once peaceful and predictable existence. The most deeply disturbing aspect for many in the community was the utter and absolute lack of any rational explanation for their vanishing. There were no discernible footsteps leading away from the house into the surrounding wilderness, no broken branches in the dense woods to suggest a hurried passage, no discarded clothing or personal effects, no signs of a desperate struggle or forced entry. It was as if the entire family had simply ceased to exist, dissolved into the very air within their own home, in the middle of a mundane meal. Reverend Croft, a man of profound and unwavering faith, found his deeply held beliefs tested to their very limits by the sheer impossibility of the event. He preached sermons on divine will and inscrutable paths, attempting to offer solace and understanding. But even his usually resonant voice carried an undeniable undertone of profound unease, a silent, almost desperate acknowledgement of the terrifyingly inexplicable. The 12 empty chairs at the Abernathy dining table haunted the collective consciousness of Oakhaven, a chilling phantom limb of their community. Each passing season, as the farmhouse slowly surrendered to the relentless assault of the elements, its paint peeling like ancient skin, its windows clouding over with dust and grime, the haunting legend of the vanished family grew in intensity and scope. The unanswered questions festered like an unhealing wound, a perpetual source of anguish and bewilderment in the very heart of the community. What unseen force, what unimaginable power, could pluck an entire family from the secure, loving embrace of their own home, leaving behind only the cold, haunting remnants of a Sunday dinner and an enduring, chilling silence that would forever defy all understanding? The profound mystery remained, an almost spectral presence in the whispering Georgia pines, an eternal question mark suspended in the very air. Years bled imperceptibly into decades, and the harrowing tale of the vanished Abernathys transitioned seamlessly from an immediate, visceral horror to a persistent, unsettling legend whispered from one generation to the next. The farmhouse, once a vibrant hub of boisterous life and warm domesticity, became irrevocably known as the Silent House. Its dilapidated silhouette, a somber, brooding landmark on the Oakhaven landscape, perpetually shrouded in an aura of profound melancholy. Children, emboldened by youthful curiosity and a morbid fascination, dared each other to approach its crumbling porch, their breath held tight in their chests, their eyes wide with a compelling mixture of abject fear and thrilling anticipation. The mystery, rather than dissipating with the passage of time, seemed only to deepen, each passing year adding another intricate layer of moss and shadow to its impenetrable core, rendering it even more enigmatic. Old Man Hemlock, the venerable postmaster, lived to a remarkably ripe old age, his memory remaining astonishingly sharp, though often momentarily clouded by the persistent fog of those maddeningly unanswered questions. He would, without fail, recount the chilling story to any curious stranger who happened upon his quiet post office, his voice a low, gravelly whisper, his eyes distant and unfocused, as if still perpetually searching for Josiah's familiar, reassuring silhouette on those long-ago Monday mornings. He would meticulously emphasize the unsettlingly undisturbed nature of the house, the eerie tableau of the half-eaten meal, the quiet, almost respectful way everything had been left behind, as if by an unseen, courteous hand. It was this chilling lack of chaos, this unnatural orderliness that truly disturbed him most profoundly, the terrifying implication of an invisible, silent, and overwhelmingly powerful force at sinister work. The direct descendants of those who had lived in Oakhaven in that fateful year of 1855 inherited the story of the Abernathys not merely as a dry historical fact to be debated or analyzed, but as a chilling, immutable cautionary tale, whispered around crackling bonfires on moonlit nights and carefully tucked away in the deepest recesses of treasured family histories. Some, driven by a profound need for explanation, cautiously suggested a powerful, ancient curse had befallen the family, while others, leaning heavily into the supernatural, posited a dark pact with unseen, malevolent forces lurking in the surrounding wilderness. The more pragmatic, stubbornly clinging to logic, argued for an elaborate, undetected crime, though the intricate details of how such a monumental and seamless vanishing could occur without leaving a single trace remained maddeningly elusive and utterly unexplainable. The truth, if indeed there ever was a singular, definitive one, seemed to have vanished completely along with the Abernathys themselves, swallowed whole by the quiet, indifferent Georgia wilderness, leaving only a haunting void. One particularly persistent, though entirely unproven, anecdote continued to circulate among the townsfolk, involving a solitary traveling peddler who claimed to have passed the Abernathy farm late on that fateful Sunday evening. He spoke, and with a tremor in his voice, of witnessing a faint, unusual luminescence emanating from the dining room windows, a soft, pulsating glow unlike any ordinary lamp or candle he had ever encountered. He had initially dismissed it at the time as a mere trick of the rapidly fading light or an unusual deceptive reflection. But after the family's incomprehensible disappearance, the chilling memory returned to haunt him relentlessly. A tiny, unsettling piece of an impossible, maddeningly complex puzzle. This spectral tale, though never officially verified or corroborated by any other witness, only served to add another ethereal layer of profound, unsettling mystery to the already inexplicable event, further blurring the lines between reality and the spectral. The Silent House stood as a grim, ever-present testament to the inherent fragility of human existence and the boundless, terrifying nature of the vast unknown that lies just beyond the edges of human perception. It served as a perpetual, chilling reminder to the people of Oakhaven that even in the most familiar and seemingly secure of settings, surrounded by the mundane, comforting rhythms of daily life, the thin, almost imperceptible veil between what is known and what remains eternally mysterious could be terrifyingly porous and unpredictably thin. The Abernathys were gone, irrevocably lost to the annals of time, leaving behind only the chilling, echoing remnants of their final, unfinished supper, and a profound silence so absolute and pervasive it seemed to hum with the weight of countless unspoken questions. A silence that offered no answers, only an enduring, unsettling void. As the 20th century slowly dawned, casting its first tentative light on a world rapidly transforming, the Abernathy farmhouse had been reduced to little more than a skeletal ruin, its once sturdy roof completely collapsed, its timber walls crumbling inexorably, slowly but surely being reclaimed by the tenacious, relentless flora of the Georgia wilderness. Yet, its haunting story, like an enduring specter, persisted, passed down through generations, becoming an intrinsic, immutable part of Oakhaven's collective identity and its very soul. The children of the original witnesses, now themselves stooped and gray with age, recounted the tale to their wide-eyed grandchildren, their voices hushed with reverence and a touch of lingering dread, their eyes still holding a faint, distant flicker of the original terror and profound wonder that had gripped the town so many years ago. The persistent ambiguity of the event, its utter lack of explanation, was its most enduring and maddening quality, a narrative black hole. Historians, both local and regional, occasionally attempted to revisit the cold case, poring over brittle, yellowed newspaper clippings and dusty, long-forgotten county records, their hopes fervent that they might somehow unearth a hidden detail, a long-forgotten clue, or a piece of crucial information that had somehow eluded previous investigations. They found nothing beyond the initial police reports, which meticulously and frustratingly detailed the utterly undisturbed nature of the house and the complete, baffling absence of any physical evidence whatsoever. The sheer lack of any rational explanation, the terrifying improbability of 12 human beings vanishing without leaving a single discernible trace, seemed to defiantly mock the very laws of logic and reason, mocking the human need for order and understanding. Over the decades, a myriad of theories abounded, each more fantastic and speculative than the last, attempting to fill the gaping void left by the inexplicable event. Some spoke with hushed reverence of a rare, localized phenomenon, a bizarre temporal distortion or an atmospheric anomaly of unprecedented scale that had simply rendered the entire family invisible to the known world, perhaps transporting them to another dimension. Others, leaning heavily into the supernatural, whispered in fearful tones of the family being taken by some ancient, malevolent force dwelling deep within the primordial woods, or perhaps spirited away to another, unknowable realm, a place beyond human comprehension. The very lack of a tangibly concrete solution allowed these more imaginative and unsettling explanations to flourish, taking root and growing wild, filling the terrifying void left by the unyielding and unyielding facts. Even in modern times, curious visitors, drawn irresistibly by the enduring magnetic pull of the legend, would sometimes venture out to the desolate site of the former Abernathy farm. They would stand in respectful silence amidst the overgrown, crumbling ruins, listening intently to the mournful sighing of the wind through the tall, ancient pines, their imaginations striving desperately to conjure the vivid image of a family gathered around a table, laughing, sharing a meal, only to suddenly, inexplicably, utterly cease to be. The quiet, almost spiritual hum of the Georgia landscape would seem to absorb their unspoken questions, offering no answers, only a profound, echoing silence that spoke volumes of an eternal mystery. The Abernathy disappearance remained an enduring ghost in the collective memory of Oakhaven, a chilling, ever-present reminder of the vast unknown that lies just beyond the comforting edges of human comprehension. It was a story not of horror in the conventional sense, filled with jump scares and grotesque imagery, but of a more profound and unsettling void, a terrifying space where certainty dissolved and the very fabric of reality seemed to fray, revealing a terrifying glimpse of the impossible. The family of 12, utterly gone after a quiet Sunday dinner in 1855, had left behind not just a perplexing mystery, but a haunting, indelible question mark in the annals of Georgia history, an eternal testament to what can vanish when no one is watching, leaving only the chilling, unanswered whisper of their sudden, incomprehensible absence. The pervasive quiet that settled over Oakhaven in the immediate aftermath of the Abernathy family's disappearance became a permanent fixture, an almost tangible shroud draped over the small community. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of rural life, but a deep, hollow silence, echoing the profound emptiness left by 12 vanished souls. This oppressive stillness, a stark contrast to the usual hubbub of a large, vibrant family, became the most potent and enduring symbol of the mystery. The wind that rustled through the cornfields seemed to carry not the scent of ripening harvest, but the faint, unsettling whisper of unanswered questions, a constant, nagging presence in the collective consciousness. The very air around the abandoned Abernathy property seemed to thicken with an unspoken sorrow, a lingering aura of the inexplicable. Even decades later, locals reported an unnatural coolness upon entering the perimeter of the former farm, a subtle drop in temperature that defied the scorching Georgia summers. This phenomenon, though never scientifically investigated, became part of the lore, a physical manifestation of the lingering mystery. It suggested a tear in the fabric of reality, a place where the familiar rules of the world no longer applied, a portal to an unknown, unseen dimension. The concept of such a delicate, unseen boundary, so easily breached, instilled a quiet dread in the hearts of the townspeople. The Abernathy dining table, painstakingly preserved by Constable Thorne for a time in a local barn, before finally succumbing to decay, became a silent artifact of the impossible. Its bare surface, once laden with a family's meal, now bore only the invisible weight of absence, a stark reminder of lives abruptly truncated. The image of those 12 set places, the uneaten food, the half-filled glass of milk, became an almost sacred, yet terrifying, symbol for the community. It was a tangible piece of an intangible horror, a domestic scene transformed into a portal to the utterly unknown, an unmoving testament to a vanishing act that defied every logical explanation. As Oakhaven slowly healed and adapted to the gaping void left by the Abernathys, a quiet understanding settled in. Some mysteries were simply not meant to be solved. The human mind, with its incessant need for order and resolution, struggled with this concept. Yet the Abernathy case offered no alternative. It was a profound lesson in humility, a stark reminder that the universe held secrets far grander and more terrifying than human comprehension could grasp. The family's story became a silent challenge, a testament to the limits of investigation and the vastness of the unexplained. And so, the legend of the Abernathy family persisted, not as a sensationalized horror story, but as a deeply unsettling, melancholic truth embedded in the soul of Oakhaven. It was a story about the fragile nature of presence, the chilling ease with which existence could simply cease, leaving behind only the cold echoes of an unfinished meal and an enduring, profound silence that would forever defy understanding. In 1855, Georgia, 12 lives had vanished, and no one ever again truly spoke the same.
If you like this type of stories, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.